What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about the BTL Y-Wing Starfighter, also known as Y-Wing bombers. They were produced by Corsair Manufacturing, a company that also made the K-Wing and had produced Starfighters since the time of the Old Republic. Brand new, this thing cost 134,999 credits. That's about 15,000 less than an X-Wing. This ship was enormous. At 23.4 meters, or nearly 80 feet long, that's about the same length as 3 Vulture droids, or about 37 Yodas. And at 16 meters wide, it was the same width as 2 Hailfire droids side by side. This large size and irregular shape made it so that this ship got a maneuverability rating of 59, compared to 96 for the TIE Fighter. At a maximum speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour, or 621 miles per hour, the Y-Wing was only barely slower than the X-Wing, but it should be pointed out that its speed could be reduced, depending on the weight of the payload that it had on board. On top of this, it was also equipped with a Class 1 hyperdrive. Let's take a look at the Y-Bomber and point out what each part does. Starting in the back middle, we can see the power generator, the compact but highly effective shield generator, and the hyperdrive, all of which got their energy from power cells located inside of the engine pylon. Out on each side were the distinctive Corsair R200 ion jet engines. This ion propulsion technology is similar to what was found in TIE Fighters, and is based on real-world technology that's used in a bunch of different satellites. Electrons are pumped into radioactive gas, ionizing it, accelerating out of the back of the engine, generating thrust which moves the vehicle forward. The rounded part up front is what contains a series of sensor arrays, but it also has steering plates, which can move like the rudders on a boat. This part connected to the back of the ion engine has a similar steering function. Up front we have a pair of thruster control jets, which can work to help make minor adjustments to its course, or to help with braking. Moving up the cockpit, we have a pair of laser cannons, and another sensory array, which is where the computer targeting system is housed. The pilot sits here, behind a protective transparent steel canopy, and the astromech will be placed right behind this cockpit. The big weapons are the ion cannons on top, which are placed on a highly effective rotating turret, but perhaps most important are the pair of proton torpedo launchers. Each of these tubes could carry up to 4 proton torpedoes. Now what's really interesting is that the original Y-Wing had a sleek design. The entire fuselage was covered, giving the Y-Wing a very elegant appearance. But the Y-Wing was prone to many mechanical errors, and this became very frustrating for the mechanics, who had to take off the outer hull plating just to get to the parts that needed to be fixed. They eventually became so fed up with this, that they just left this extra plating off, and they realized that this actually made the Y-Wing perform even better. It was now lighter, and all of the components were kept cooler, with pilots unanimously agreeing that there was a boost in performance. Its history starts in the Clone Wars, and continues on far after the fall of the Empire. The BTL-B Y-Wing is what we saw used by the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars. This was that original version with the sleek hull, but another difference was this bubble turret, which would be manned by a separate clone gunner. And although the Y-Wing was an excellent bomber throughout the Clone Wars, when the Republic became the Empire, they decided not to order any more of them. Realizing they hadn't paid off the right people, Corsair Manufacturing had to look for a new market. By this time, they were aware that pilots and mechanics both agreed upon the fact that the Y-Wing did not need a sleek hull. This somewhat cut down on cost, and Corsair began selling these Y-Wing bombers to different pirate groups, mercenary forces, and the increasingly growing rebel forces. This version was called the BTL S3 Y-Wing, and were heavily used by the Rebel Alliance by the year 18 BBY. The Y-Wing was actually their main fighter, and it's said that the Rebel Alliance lost more Y-Wings during the Galactic Civil War than any other starfighter. Another variant was the BTL A4 Y-Wing, which was just like the S3, except for it only had room for 1 pilot, and to remove the need for a gunner, it locked the overhead ion cannons in a forward-facing position. They also made this version faster, at the cost of making the shields weaker. Its faster speed and one-man crew made it popular amongst pirates, but it was also used by the Rebel Alliance for designated bombing runs. And as the Rebel Alliance acquired more X-Wings and A-Wings, the Y-Wing continued to follow into a more specialized role, using its ion cannons to disable larger threats, while the other starfighters engaged with TIE Fighters and TIE Interceptors, creating a path for the Y-Wings to deliver their payload. And once they had a significant amount of B-Wings, the Y-Wing started to be slowly phased out, but it still had a prominent role during the Battle of Endor. With the fall of the Empire and the rise of the New Republic, B-Wings assumed a more defensive role, and were used almost solely for patrolling planets. That is except for the Long Probe Scout Y-Wing, which was basically a recon version of a Y-Wing, which had more fuel, an extra hyperdrive, and upgraded sensors and long-range communications. But even this was only used by the New Republic for a couple years after the fall of the Empire. Some were used for planetary defense during the Yuzong Vong War, which started in 25 ABY, and some very rare Y-Wings actually saw fighting during the Second Galactic Civil War during the year 40 ABY. And the last time a Y-Wing is ever seen is out in wild space in the year 44 ABY, when one was spotted at the Skifter space station, which orbited the planet Kuratuin. Well, that's it for its history, but you definitely want to hear this cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. The first time the BTL Y-Wing Starfighter is ever named is in the very first Star Wars product to ever be released. It was the novelization of the film and was titled Star Wars From the Adventures of Luke Skywalker. All of the Y-Wings in Episode 4 were actual plastic models, but in some of the additions that have been added across the years, some of these have been removed and replaced with CGI Y-Wings. And what's really cool is that the design of the Y-Wing that we see during the Clone Wars is the way that the Y-Wing was originally intended to look. It was supposed to have a transparent bubble turret on top and have a bunch of body paneling, but this sleek design and clear bubble messed with the way that the light was reflected off the blue screen and therefore had to be removed from the Y-Wing's design. Well, that's it for the BTL Y-Wing Starfighter. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, always coordinate your bombing runs, and the Force will be with you, always.